My parents are rich, disgustingly so. It's mainly old money that was passed down to my dad. I have 2 siblings, both have 3 kids. My wife and I, we're both women, have 2 kids. Our kids are adopted. My parents have apparently set aside a large sum of money for each of their grandchildren. They started off with about $10K, invested it wisely, and the accounts are now closer to $100K each. We have seen proof these accounts exist, and the money matches what my parents said. This money comes under 2 conditions. The first is that each child either goes to a university or gets a job at 18. They are allowed to choose what they do. My parents have no say, but knowing my parents, I doubt they will let their grandkids do something they don't approve of. The second is that all of us, me, my siblings, the grandkids, and the spouses, have dinner with my parents on the 1st of every month. If both of these conditions are upheld, then the full sum of money, whatever it's grown to, is given in full to whichever kid it was meant for when they turn 21. My parents' reasoning for this is that we are in the UK, and tuition fees come to just under $10K a year right now for 3 years of study in most courses. When they are 21, they will have likely finished university and they can pay off their student loan immediately and still have around half left over. If they go into the workforce instead of university, then $100K can buy them a house, no mortgage or anything needed. Here's the catch. There is no money set aside for my children. My kids are 14 and 16. My parents do not view my children as family members because they are not blood related, and we finalized the adoption in 2015, so my parents never knew them as babies. They treat my kids as family most of the time, with birthdays and Christmases, and they're always invited to family functions, including these dinners. But because the money is family money that goes back generations, my parents don't want to give my kids any of it because they're adopted. I am expected to be at these family dinners, because if I don't show, my nieces and nephews don't get their money. My parents seem indifferent whether my wife and kids go. I'm allowed to miss some, but it's like school. You need a really good reason or a doctor's note, and if you go below 80% attendance, crap hits the fan. The oldest of my nieces and nephews turned 19 in April, so I'd need to go for about 18 months to get her the money. But the youngest of all of them is 10, meaning I'd need to commit to family dinners for the next 11 years for him to get his money. I don't think it's fair that my kids are being treated differently because they're adopted. I also don't feel that going would send a bad message. However, both of my siblings are on board with the idea, and as it stands, I am the only obstacle between their kids and that money. Will I be the idiot for not going? Info. I have talked to my siblings about it, and they agree it's cruel that my children are the only ones not included, but have essentially said that they don't want to rock the boat. Their kids will have money so long as we all comply. If we argue or do some form of protest, my parents will put the money for all my nieces and nephews straight into their holiday fund, and they'll never see a penny of it. Also, there's approximately $100K per account right now at this moment in time. That money will still have between 2 and 11 years to grow for each of my nieces and nephews. Edit. I'm not going. I knew I shouldn't go before I even posted this, but in real life, everyone I knew was telling me I'd be selfish to stand on principle and screw over my nieces and nephews in the process, so I just needed an outsider's perspective. My parents can take their family dinners that don't include my family and stick them where the sun don't shine. I won't be disinherited for this because they wouldn't want the scandal. They've actually said that to me before now. And they're already in their late 70s, so I guess it's just a very morbid waiting game at this stage. If they actually do cut off my nieces and nephews over this, then when I get my 1/3 of everything, I'll pay all the grandkids what they deserve with interest, and that will absolutely be including my children. With this in mind, I may need to go to the odd Christmas, New Year, birthday party to help them keep up appearances, but I'll be going very low, bordering no contact. Wow guys, this is crazy. It sounds to me just like some kind of a crazy game OP's parents want to play. OP's kids aren't included, so she shouldn't be required at these dinners, and that should be her argument. They don't get to include her when it's convenient and exclude her and her family when it isn't. This is weird and manipulative to basically pay people to show up for family dinners. Don't you think, guys? My family comes from a middle-class background, but my younger sister Nikki married into old money and now lives a very comfortable lifestyle. She and her husband Joel don't have children yet, and they love to spoil my kids, who are 6 and 4. My problem is, every time Nikki and Joel buy my kids gifts or takes us on vacation, Nikki tells them that they should study hard and get straight A's in school so that they'll have a lot of money to buy the things they want when they grow up. I don't want my kids to feel pressured to excel academically, because that's what my parents did with me, and Nikki and I hated it. I also don't want them to grow up materialistic or think that money is the most important thing. The tipping point for me was when my husband Ben and I were looking at TVs online, and I made a comment about how I like a certain model, but it's too expensive. My son said something along the lines of, "Why don't you have the money to buy the TV you like? Didn't you get good grades when you were in school?" Which is definitely something I don't want him to say to other people. The next time Nikki had gifts for my kids, I took her aside and said that while I'm very grateful that she and Joel are so generous to us, I want her to stop telling my kids that they should get straight A's so they'll have money when they grow up. Nikki was surprised. I explained my reasons, and she replied that she just wants my kids to be happy and that's why she buys them gifts, and she wants to encourage them to do well in school at the same time. She said that I get the final say about my children, so she won't say that anymore. But she doesn't understand why I think it's wrong to say that, since our parents said that to us too when we were younger. I told her that our parents saying that made me feel miserable because I felt pressured to get good grades. She said that I might not have liked being told that then, but it was for our own good, and because of it, we are now in a good place financially. At that point, I felt like she was being passive-aggressive, because she knows that I didn't do as well as she did academically, and I'm not yet in a good place financially. So I asked her if it was really straight A's that got us there, because for me, it's my work that puts food on the table, and not my grades. And she and Joel don't even use their degrees because Joel's trust funds cover everything. Ben said that I went too far by bringing up Joel and Nikki's finances and making it seem like Nikki wouldn't have money if it weren't for Joel. My best friend Kim says it's fair game because it was a fact that I just pointed out. And as Nikki said herself, I get the final say about my children, so she should have left it at that and not asked me to justify myself. Thoughts? So my thoughts on this is that OP is so damn jealous. Yep, and her jealousy managed to shine through on the whole post. Throughout the entire post, she constantly mentions Nikki and her money. The jealousy seeps through. I feel bad for the kids and her husband. She will never, ever stop being jealous. As for Nikki, it sounds like she worked hard in school and just happened to marry a guy with money. I think OP went too far with this. My fiancé and I are late 20s, have been together for 6 years. With a 3-month period we were broken up, but we don't really count that. Set to marry in 2 years, summer 2021. I make pretty good money for my age. In fact, I make more money than any of my friends or family, and I would bet I'm in the 1% of my community. I try to sound humble, but this is important to my argument. I should also add, when we started dating, I was delivering pizzas for minimum wage and going to college full-time for my degree, so the gold digger arguments just isn't there. My fiancée 5 months ago lost her job as a waitress. She was fired for no call, no showing 3 days in a row to attend her uncle's funeral. Since then, she hasn't worked. I really didn't mind at all. I make enough for both of us to have some major cushion. I am against joint bank accounts entirely, so instead, I just would Venmo her some cash weekly. It was $400 for a while, and everyone was okay. She has been complaining more and more about how she's broke, doesn't have enough to survive, etc. I know this isn't true because I shop weekly and I fill our kitchen with food, our bathroom with toiletries, pay every bill, etc., etc. She has been hinting at wanting more money from me. I shudder to say allowance, but that's what it seems to be. I told her I would give her more on one condition. She gives me her bank account details so I could see exactly what she was spending it on. I could see the clothes, fast food, and other trinkets she brought home, but I didn't have a clue how she was blowing through all that cash. Sometimes in one day, when she only goes shopping once a week with me. She blew up, telling me I wasn't trusting her and how I was the one against joint bank accounts, so I should understand her privacy. Yeah, Huge red flags all over the place. I talked to my sister and therapist about this, and they both took her side, saying I was not respecting her privacy when I'm the one that demands it also. Am I the idiot? Okay, so I think this guy can't have it both ways. He can't tell her he'll support her and then be critical about how she spends her money. If they both make the decision that he'll be the sole earner, that doesn't mean she suddenly doesn't have a right for privacy. Do I think $400 is a ridiculous amount? Yes. Do I think he should know each other's finances? Yes. But being equal about it means he has to show his bank accounts too, and they both decide how much each gets. That means including him. If she gets an allowance, so does he. If you think you can't do that with your partner, better not marry them. It can't just be that because he earns the money, he gets to make all financial decisions from now on. My wife and I got engaged about a year ago last October, and my sister announced her pregnancy the day after. But I knew she was lying because she never had any desire to have children and shared she felt it would distract from her career. Fast forward to the wedding last night. Everyone's boozing, having a good time, until it's time for our first dance. My sister takes it upon herself to moan that we shouldn't have had alcohol at the wedding since she can't have any, and about 3 minutes after I made a snarky remark about it, my sister suddenly goes into labor. Of course, my family goes to her aid, many of them rushing her to the hospital, and my parents went to the hospital very excited for the birth of their first grandchild, leaving just my wife's side of the family and a few stray members of mine and our friends in attendance. My cousins make me feel guilty for trying to go ahead with our first dance without my grandparents there. Pretty much after that, it just dissipates due to awkwardness and just an overall uncomfortable feeling. About 1/3 of the wedding party was left. We didn't get to cut the cake like we wanted. We just had it boxed up, and people took home whatever. No sparklers, no wedding bags given. Now the box is just sitting in my living room unused. And to top it off, my sister isn't due for another 2 months, and there wasn't anything wrong with her pregnancy. Everyone's relieved, but it was so ducking bitter. I blew up at her over the phone this morning, just letting off all the steam I've held in. I called her a C, an attention W, basically every curse word in the book. She told me she had bought me a nice wedding gift. Yeah, okay, sure. But I definitely wasn't getting it now. I replied, the only wedding gift I want from her is a noose, and if I never saw her again after years of her nonsense, I'd be fine with that. She says I'm not allowed to see my nephew. I tell her if I had to see her kid, I'd vomit on it. I do feel bad about that one, because her child hasn't done anything wrong, nor has it been born yet. But her pay attention to me attitude is just disgusting at this point. It's my ducking wedding, which she ruined. Money we can't get back from things that weren't used, time, etc. We barely have any photos from the reception, no cake cutting photos, no first dance, unfinished dinner, blah blah, same old BS, and all because she wanted attention. She starts sobbing on the phone, saying she did it to bring the family together more on my wedding day, as if the family wasn't more together at a ducking wedding, and basically admitting she did it on purpose, but for good reasons. She offers an apology. I hang up and block her number. My mom and dad have been trying to call me to get the situation under control. I ignore their calls because I'd rather not yell at them when it's not their fault, and I'll talk to them when I'm ready. Edit. Not sure if this will go over the word count, but my sister definitely got pregnant a few months after our engagement. I think maybe January she had conceived. I feel as if the sister has some sort of narcissism disorder. It's insane she's upstaged the birth of her cousin's children, friends' birthdays. I feel like she can't help it at this point. How stupid can she be to think that faking going into labor during someone's wedding is a good thing? I think OP should never talk to her again. Even though she is family, she doesn't deserve it.